Thanks, April. By now, everyone in Rhode Island has heard and reheard the news from our recent presidential preference primary. On the Republican side, Donald Trump won as expected, but he did so with a good deal more of the vote than he was ever anticipated to receive. For the Democrats, the Bernie Sanders win in and of itself was a surprise. On both sides of the House, the real story was just how wrong all the polls, and therefore all the pundits, actually were. There are a number of reasons for these errors. Let's take a look at some of them a little more closely. Technically speaking, the act of conducting a political poll is becoming harder and harder, especially this election cycle. The main reasons are that increased use of cell phones has made getting good listings of telephone numbers a real problem compared to days of old when the one and only phone company did all that for the pollsters. On top of which, the wide use of caller ID these days means that many of us just don't even pick up the phone after hours unless we recognize the incoming number. Those two shifts in American telephone culture really mean that it just costs more to do a poll than it once did because it takes many more tries to get the targeted statistical spread of interviews. Since political campaigns are perennially short on cash, the trade-off is that today we base polling results on much smaller samples than we once did. There's a price to be paid for that: inaccuracy. I think we are also seeing a fundamental shift in what the voters want this cycle, and I'd argue that it is being missed by the establishment of each political party. The common denominator between Trump and Sanders is that they are both outsiders, but also remarkably different outsiders than anything we've ever seen in American presidential politics. Sanders is an avowed socialist who thinks that the current administration's problem is they didn't spend anywhere near enough public money. Trump is aggressive to the point of ignoring decorum and almost any sense of propriety when reacting to his political opponents. Don't make the mistake of simply dismissing these two as crazy. If Trump is crazy, then he's crazy like a fox. What's really going on here is the American public showing us it is done with business as usual, at least for now. Hillary Clinton represents the most hidebound traditions of Democratic power politics, perhaps since LBJ. But that's not what the public is buying this time. Sure, Clinton is ahead in delegates, but that's because of insider privilege and her dragging superdelegates along with her despite what they want. Sanders, by contrast, is being propelled by a movement he triggered, but may not be able to control. The Republicans fielded half a dozen successful governors, any one of which might have transitioned to life in the federal executive far faster than Mr. Trump. But that's not what the public is buying this time. So for my money, I don't think we've seen the last of electoral surprises this year. And, incidentally, that's what this election is all about. My money and yours. April?